So should you lease or buy your electric car? Let's have a look. Okay, so I'm getting more and more questions about electric cars, which, you know, we can probably expect going forward, can't we? So I think the world's decided that electric technology is the one that's now going to replace fossil fuels, certainly in the short term. Whether we get to other things in future like hydrogen and other bits and bobs, who knows, but for the moment it looks like electric is where everything's going for the foreseeable. Now, everybody knows I love car leasing. I do lots and lots of content on car leasing, and certainly if you want a new vehicle, for me personally, I think car leasing is the way to go. Now, I don't lease cars for a living. I don't have any reason to promote car leasing at all. It's my personal opinion, and I'm well aware that other people may have different opinions, so it's just my personal opinion, okay? Especially with electric vehicles, I think car leasing is even more attractive than with fossil fuel cars, and there are a few reasons for that. So for one thing, electric vehicles are fairly new technology in relative terms, and I think it's a technology that's improving quite rapidly. Certainly things like battery life and range are improving, although Tesla still seem to be at the sort of top end of it. So what we don't know is what that's going to look like in, say, 3 years. What we do know is that during the car's life the battery degrades, and I think it's within 8 years they say you lose 20% of the battery life. But I've certainly seen some examples online where they're much newer cars, have covered more miles, but they've lost the battery life a lot quicker than 8 years. With most cars there's some kind of warranty around that for, you know, a certain specific period, so if there are any issues they would do a replacement for you, but that's by the by. We don't know long term how these things are going to be. In 6 years, what do they look like? In 8 years, what do they look like? And we're not talking about old models that have been around for a few years, we're talking about the current models that are out in the market. It may be that they're pushing the range as far as they can, so we get into 250 miles, 220 miles for an average car, but it's going to degrade more quickly. We don't know, is the honest situation, isn't it? So as we don't know what the future is going to be with that technology, but we know that the technology is improving all the time. So if in 3 or 5 years 300 miles is now the new norm, and actually the battery life only degrades 10% in the first 8 years, is the car that you own going to be very attractive to a buyer? Yes, it's going to be a fraction of the cost of a new one, but is it going to be the fraction of the cost of a lease? We don't know. Or is it going to be so undesirable that it becomes dirt cheap and therefore of little value to you? For me, that's a massive point in this, is that it's a technology that's advancing really rapidly, and we don't know what that's going to do to use values. Where with a petrol or diesel car, you can have a fair stab at what it's going to be worth in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years even, with a few exceptions, some of these cars that just depreciate like mad. But you can have a fairly decent educated guess. At the moment, I don't think we can. The other thing we don't really know at the moment is how easy it's going to be to swap out batteries once they have degraded, and what the cost of replacing them is going to be. And even if we do on the current cars, what about the next batch or the next year's cars? So if I've got, say, a 5-year-old Tesla Model S, and it's going to be, I don't know the cost by the way, but say it's going to be 10 grand to change the battery over. Next year's Model S might have a different technology. They may have come up with a way of swapping the battery out, and I don't know, maybe it's only going to be 5 on that one, so therefore that becomes more desirable, and the old technology is kind of like meh. As usual guys, if you're enjoying the video, please just give me a quick like, and please leave a comment. Tell me what you think, if you agree or disagree. It helps me massively, and it helps to get YouTube to promote my videos, so please give me a thumbs up. Thank you. I think the point I'm trying to make, probably really badly, is that we don't know if the long-term use value of an electric car is going to be anything like the long-term use value of a fossil fuel car. And the main difference being, the fossil fuel car will do the same number of miles on a tank of petrol or diesel. The electric car is going to go down. We're not sure by how much, or how much that's going to cost to put right. For me, it's difficult to invest money into ownership of something where I've got no idea what it's going to be worth in 5 years or 10 years, whatever it may be. Okay, so for me, leasing works primarily on electric vehicles purely for that reason. If you take away all the other reasons why we like to lease vehicles, and if you've seen any of my other videos about car leasing, you know, we look at that in some detail, but if you put all those other things aside, all the other reasons why leasing is good for some people and better than ownership for some people, if we put all those reasons aside, just the fact that it's an EV puts a whole new cloud of doubt in my mind. Likewise, I've got no doubt that either my next car or the one after that is going to be an EV. Absolutely, but I will be leasing it, I promise you. The other thing at the moment is obviously if you're a business owner, it makes a lot of sense to lease an EV because of the company car tax implications. So what that really all means is that if you buy an EV today, it's really difficult to calculate the total cost of ownership, because the total cost of ownership should also include what the car's worth when you try and sell it on, because you obviously take that back at the end. So if, for example, I went out and bought a brand new petrol car today, say I bought something like an Audi A3 for 25 grand, I could go on to eBay, Auto Trader, everywhere else, and I could see that a 3-year, 5-year-old Audi A3, so a 3-year-old one, I could get one for 15 grand with this number of miles on. What we don't know is what a Polestar is going to look like in 3 years, and how that's going to be affected by the way technology moves on. If during the next 3 years the range on a Polestar goes up massively, or the battery degradation disappears or drops to 5% after 8 years rather than 20, maybe it doesn't make sense for me to buy it, because what I might think will be 25 grand in 3 years could turn out to be 10, because it might be a car that's no longer all that desirable, because everyone wants this one because it will do many more miles on a single charge, and the battery won't degrade so much over time. That's where I'm sort of coming from with this, if that makes any sense whatsoever. The other good thing is that flexibility that you always get from leasing. With the technology changing so much and new entrants coming in, and the traditional car manufacturers probably honing their electric vehicle variant, rather than just taking a petrol or diesel car and sticking an electric motor in it, but they're starting to design EVs. I think the car market's going to change so drastically. It's just great to have that flexibility in leasing, where you just tie yourself in for, I'd probably do 2 years on an EV, to be honest, not even 3, because again, 3 years is such a long time in terms of these kind of vehicles now. So tie yourself in for 2 years, 2 years comes, technology's changed, or a new player's come into the market, go and try a piece of that, you know. Just to summarise all that really, really concisely, I think it's better to lease an EV rather than to buy one, because A, you don't know how much it's going to be worth in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and you don't. Even if you look at something that's been around for a while, like a Nissan Leaf, if a car comes out tomorrow that's suddenly double the range for the same price or less, it's going to be worthless. Nobody's going to want it. It's going to drop like a stone. Okay, so it's difficult to know what the car's going to be worth in future, and it's difficult to know how the market's going to change in future, and it's difficult to know how much battery life these things are actually going to retain in the long run, especially when they're pushing it so much on the range. Is that going to mean that the batteries degrade more quickly? I don't understand battery technology, I must admit, but probably neither do you. So let's not make any assumptions, and just keep your options open, guys. In general terms, in leasing, I always say it's a great way to get yourself into a new car. But if you're looking for a cheaper car and something you plan to hold on to for a number of years, then ownership's absolutely the way to go. I've got a video about car finance, which I'll put a link to, so you can look at the cost of car finance And of course, do look at our leasing videos and our leasing deals of the month, because there's loads and loads of information there, and it gives you a good idea of what's available for what kind of money. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope I didn't bore you too much. I think I've rambled on a hell of a lot in that video, but as always, please give me a thumbs up, and please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. I've put loads of content out now, and I haven't got anywhere near enough subscribers to make this worthwhile and to make me keep going. So please, your support is really appreciated and hugely helpful to me. And also feel free to recommend the video to your friends or share on social media and what have you. Thanks a lot, guys, really appreciate it.